Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing some cards I made using Queen & Company's Make Me Up Shaped Shaker Kit. The kit includes 4 different images. There's a bottle of nail polish, mascara, lipstick, and also a compact. There's this fun stamp set with lots of great sentiments that coordinate with the kit. And then there's also enough foam and acetate pieces so you can do 3 shaker cards of each image. So let's jump right in and start on the first set of cards. For the paper, I'm using Queen & Company's Under the Sea collection, and I'm also using a card sketch. This is OWH sketch number 161. If you are interested in any of the sketches that I share, I do have all of that information on my coordinating blog post, and that link is provided in the description box below. For the background of my card, I used some diagonal striped paper with little purple, yellow, and blue stripes. And then the yellow polka dot paper is from Queen & Company's Petite Patterns. I just cut that, I think it's 1.5 inch strip that goes across the middle of the card or the lower portion of the card. And then I used one of Queen & Company's border dies for that scalloped border in blue paper. Now I'm using some of the purple and white twine. I'm just wrapping it around the card twice. I'm going to have this go right underneath the sentiment. And I did just stamp that directly onto that yellow paper using some black ink. And then just to make sure the ends of the twine don't come loose on my card, I put some red line tape, and now I'll just put some ATG on the back of this panel and attach it to my card base. And then I'm just going to loop this extra piece of twine through, kind of underneath, and then I'll tie a bow. Just snip off the extra. And now I'll start working on the image box. I used one of Queen & Company's foundation dies for both of these ovals. I have the white in some pearlescent paper and then just some purple cardstock for the rest of my layers. And since the top portion of this oval is going off of this yellow paper, I just put a scrap of cardstock on that upper portion just to keep that piece nice and even on the card. So for this card, I'm going to make a non-shaker. I'm using some purple glitter paper for my nail polish bottle. This first piece I cut out using the outline die. And then the top, or the lid, I guess, of the nail polish bottle, I cut out using some satin mirror paper. So I'm just adhering all of these down using some liquid adhesive. And then using that same glitter paper, I cut out the frame for the bottle. You wouldn't necessarily have to add this piece if you're not doing a shaker, but I like that faux stitch look. So now to finish off the card, I'm adding some small stitched circles in some solid cardstock, and then the blue is from Queen & Company's Sweet Shop, the matte stacks. They have some solid colors, and it's nice that some of those colors match some of their other collections. On that small blue circle on the left-hand side, I decided to have it go off of the edge, and then I just flipped over the card and trimmed off that piece. And now I'm just using some Queen & Company bling. I have an assortment of different colors and styles. I have some of their brand new ice flowers, some yellow iridescent bubbles, blue frosties, and also some of their yellow jelly gems. So there is my finished card, and I did make a second card using the same sketch, but the second card I made a shaker card. So it's so fun that Queen & Company's kits work perfectly for non-shakers as well, and it really helps you stretch those supplies. So moving on to my next set of cards, this is a sketch by Freshly Made Sketches, number 249. The paper collection is Queen & Company's Magical Characters, and my favorite colors in this whole collection are the pink and the black. So I do tend to use those up really quickly. I'm starting off by working on the sentiment strip that goes on the lower portion of the card. So I've stamped the sentiment, and this is, I hope your day is as glamorous as you are. And then I'm going to add just this thin strip of pattern paper right underneath that sentiment. And the sentiment strip is some gray paper with little white polka dots. I believe it's from the Under the Sea collection. I thought that worked perfectly since I didn't want to have another strip of white, since the little image box is going to be this white paper. I'm adhering all of these pattern paper pieces to some solid black cardstock. My matted layers are generally 1/8 of an inch more than the measurements listed on the sketch, although I do alter the measurements quite a bit. This flower paper on the sketch, I have it listed as 1 inch, and I decided I wanted a wider piece, so that flower paper I have on my card is actually 1.5 inches. The design of this sketch has many of the pieces overlapping each other, so I will be adding some scrap cardstock on those extra areas just to keep everything nice and even or level on the card. And I had a little bit extra overhang on that white and black piece, so I just flipped it over and snipped that off with my scissors. So now when I'm getting to the sentiment strip that goes across the card, again, just using some scrap cardstock and putting it underneath those two sides where it's going over the white paper. I'll just use some ATG on the back and adhere it to my card. So once that's in place, I'm going to put my card front onto a card base, and then I can start working on the image. So for this card, I'm going to be assembling the compact. And I did cut this out in a couple different papers. So for that outline die, I have some silver mirror paper. And then for the lower portion where the powder would be, I have just some light pink paper. I did trim both of those pieces down just a bit. They're going to be the background of the shaker. And sorry, my card sort of flew away from me for a second. Since the very bottom edge of the compact is going over that gray and white paper, I still have that issue where it won't be nice and level. So I did use the outline die and cut out another piece just in white. This isn't really going to show, it's just to level it off. And then I just trimmed off that bottom portion, so now everything will be nice and even. And then I adhere my silver mirror paper on the top portion and then that pink paper on the bottom. And then I can attach the foam. And Queen & Company's foam is all pre-cut and also has adhesive on both sides. So you just have to remove the backing. So I pulled off one side and then adhered it to my card. And then you can fill it with shaker toppings. I have a variety of different toppings by Queen & Company. And then to seal it all in place, you just put the acetate right on top. Now I'm using some liquid adhesive, just putting it all around that foam edge, and then I can adhere my frame. And I just cut this out using some pink cardstock that matches the pattern paper. And then I wanted to add just a little something in that upper left-hand corner. So I used one of the foundation dies, this little banner, cut out one in black and then one in this light pink. And then I cut down the pink banner just so it had a slightly different height as the black, and then just offset it slightly on the card. Now I'm using some of Queen & Company's brand new buttons. I have this pink that matches the pattern paper beautifully, and then just this small black button. Just adhered those to the card using some small glue dots. And now I'm just using a couple of embellishments. Kind of felt like there was already enough going on this card. I have some black jelly gems and also some of the ice flowers. And I put 3 of those jelly gems on the bottom of the compact. I thought it added a nice touch. So I did make a non-shaker card as well. And I would love to know which card is your favorite. Do you like those shaker cards or do you prefer those non-shaker cards? For me, it still just depends on what the card and the image is. So now moving on to my next set of cards. The paper collection is the Sweet Shop, and I'm using a sketch from OWH. This is number 231. I'm going to start off by stamping the sentiment using some turquoise ink. The sentiment reads, "Every girl deserves a man who will ruin her lipstick and not her mascara." I love this sentiment. I think it's one of my favorites. So I'm just layering all of these pieces in some blue cardstock that I have in my craft room. I love to add matted layers, so that's something you're going to see me do quite a bit. And I did modify the measurements on this sketch so I could get the images to fit. That panel that's 1.5 inches wide, the one I'm adding is 2 1/8 inches wide. I had a little extra hanging off of the end. I'm just snipping that off with my scissors. And then I'll be attaching the sentiment on the lower portion of the card. But first I'll go ahead and add this panel onto that matted layer. I'm going to use, well, I was going to use some foam because I thought it was thick enough to add some thin foam, but it wasn't. So I'm just pulling out that scrap cardstock again, putting a piece on the right hand side and then just a really small piece on the left hand side. So this is an optional thing. I just don't like to have that little dip, and sometimes it'll leave even a crease on that very edge. So just by using some of that scrap cardstock that we all have laying around, it takes care of that problem. Before I start working on the images, I'm just attaching my card front onto a card base, and I did leave that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I thought it looked nice with the rest of the colors of the paper. So for this card, I'm going to do 2 shakers. I have the mascara and also the lipstick. I figured if I'm using this sentiment, I need to have both of those images. Since the mascara is fairly tall, the lower portion of it will go on top of this little sentiment box. So I am using that scrap cardstock just to even it all out. But the lipstick's going to go right above, so I don't have to worry about that part. So I have this polka dot paper and some pink paper. Both of those I use the outline dies. And then I have some specialty paper for the lid on the mascara, and then also just a little rim on the lipstick. I removed the backing on one side of the foam and then just pressed it into place. And for the other pieces that coordinate with the dies, the lid of the mascara, I decided I wanted to pop those up as well. I'm using the foam from the inside of the lipstick and the mascara, just cutting some small pieces. That way all of the image will be at that same level. You can adhere it where it's a little bit lower and you just have that shaker portion popped up, but sometimes it's nice to have them all together. So I'm doing the same on the lipstick color. And then I did forget to attach the mascara brush. It's easier if you attach it on the little backing before you do the foam, but it still worked out fine. I just trimmed off the very top portion, put some liquid adhesive on the back and glued it in place. So now I can go ahead and fill both of my little shakers. Have an assortment of Queen & Company shaker toppings. I have some pearlies, some pops, and then some, I think there's some jelly gems and diamonds in there. All pink and white colors. So on the mascara, I didn't want to fill it very much because I still want that brush to be visible. But you could fill it up a little bit more. So I remove the other side of the backing, attach my acetate, and then I can adhere the frames in place using that liquid adhesive. And I like to put one of my acrylic blocks on top while I let the glue dry, just for that extra weight. And now I'll finish off the card by adding some small die cut flowers. This is using one of Queen & Company's foundation die sets. And I just cut these out using the solids from the Sweet Shop matte stack. I'm going to pop up the flowers using some thin foam dimension. And on that larger flower, I did a double layer with 2 different yellows. I'll add the pink, and then I'll do one more of the yellow flowers in this lower left-hand corner. And then I'm going to add one of the ice flower blings to the center of each of those die cut flowers. So I have a yellow for inside the yellow flowers and then a pink inside the pink flower. I put 2 blue jelly gems on each side of the sentiment. And then just one final touch, I use a Nuvo Shimmer pen to add some sparkle to the lipstick color. And I did make a second card as a non-shaker. I love the colors in the Sweet Shop collection. It's one of my favorites. So now moving on to my final set of cards. I won't be using a sketch this time. The paper is the Vintage Truck Sweater Weather, which I just have for this background paper. So it's a red tone-on-tone chevron design. So I'm going to layer this on some black cardstock, and then for the main panel I use some white pearlescent paper. I'm going to attach this onto my card base before I go any further. And I'm going to do a triple shaker this time. So I have the mascara, the lipstick, and also the nail polish. Now I cut all of these die cuts out of some specialty paper. Some of it has a satin finish and some of it has a mirror finish. I thought it would look really lovely for all of these images. Kind of has a bit of sophistication, I think, with the red and the black. So I'm just gluing down the outline die cuts first. And I have the tallest to the shortest for all of the images. So it's going mascara, lipstick, and then down to the nail polish. Now I'll go ahead and adhere the foam. So I'm just removing the backing. And I almost forgot to adhere the little wand, the little brush for the mascara. I'm glad I remembered this one in time. So now I can go ahead and attach that foam. So it's just a little easier, it lines up nicer if you attach it before the foam piece. Then next I'll start working on the lids or the tops of each of these images. And I am going to pop them up using some of that spare foam. So this is all just those inside pieces. So I have the mascara lid, and then I'll work on the two pieces for the lipstick. And I did speed this portion up quite a bit since you've already seen me do this part. And then once those pieces are all adhered, I can start filling the shakers. I have a nice assortment of shaker toppings in black, red, and white, although the white's actually just clear diamonds. So I'm just putting a little bit in each of them. In the nail polish, I put some red diamonds and red pearlies. In the lipstick, I have some of the black jelly gems, the clear diamonds, and then also some of the black princess cut squares. And then the mascara, I have some more of the red pearlies and also the clear diamonds. I'm just going to remove the backing on all of the foam pieces so I can attach the acetate. And then I'll put some liquid adhesive on that outside edge so I can glue all of these frames in place. Now since this is specialty paper, it took a little bit longer for those pieces to adhere down. So you can see me pressing on them a few times, especially the black. It kept curling up on me. So this is where having that acrylic block and letting it sit for a while, make sure it all stays in place. So I'll start working on the sentiment. I've already gone ahead and stamped out "Have a Glamorous Birthday." I used another one of Queen & Company's foundation dies for the oval and that scallop oval die cut. And I decided to just trim off the right hand side so it's going to be flush to the edge. And then I'm going to pop up that sentiment using some foam dimensional tape. But I wanted to add just a little something extra to the nail polish bottle. So I'm just tying a bow using some of Queen & Company's trio trims. And then I'll adhere it to the bottle using a small glue dot. I love this white trim. It has some iridescent threads kind of woven throughout, so it adds a really pretty sparkle. And now to finish off the card, I'm just going to use some more of Queen & Company's bling. I have some black epoxy dots, some red frosties, and then also just one of the white petite posies. I love the black, red, and white colors together. And then the sentiment being on the gray, I think it really stands out just a little bit more. And there is my finished card. And I did make that second card as a non-shaker. And I'm not really sure which one I prefer. I like both of them. So here's just another look at the 8 cards I made using Queen & Company's Make Me Up Shaped Shaker Kit. I'd love to know which card was your favorite. I love pink, so the compact card is definitely one of my favorites, but I also really like the last card with all that specialty paper. If you are interested in purchasing this kit or any of the other products I use, I will have a link provided in the description box below. If you've never tried one of Queen & Company's shaker kits before, I highly recommend them. Super easy to use, and I love the versatility of making those non-shaker cards as well. At the end of this video, I'll add links to a few other Queen & Company shaped shaker kit videos I've done before. They have a really nice variety of kits available. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.